Welcome to an exploration of modernism, a movement that not only revolutionized art and architecture, but also upended the very way we understand truth and reality. Today, we delve into how modernism was not merely an artistic upheaval, but a profound philosophical shift that continues to challenge our perceptions. Our story begins with Friedrich Nietzsche, whose declaration that God is dead shattered the foundation beliefs of an entire era. Nietzsche's challenge to the absolute truth and moral certainties of the 19th century set the stage for modernism's radical break with tradition.
Nietzsche is a German philosopher who lived in the 19th century, and he's quite fundamental to the formation of philosophical thought in the 20th century, and quite interestingly perhaps to the postmodern thinking. And Nietzsche in the 19th century was under the influence of a range of philosophers, including Hegel and Schopenhauer, artists like Wagner the musician, and maybe Charles Darwin, theory of evolution. And he was a kind of a very unconventional thinker. He was a full professor at a very young age of 22, 23. He decided, I think in Geneva University, he decided just to abandon his academic career and embarking on his philosophical adventures. And the key ideas about Nietzsche include his very sharp criticism of the history of Christianity, and kind of calling into question the Christian foundations of our moral values, and maybe tracing it back even to ancient Greek philosophy. And by doing that, he also provided a new framework for truth. So, in a nutshell, Nietzsche is a philosopher of values. So he's perhaps one of the towering figures in 19th century and even onwards of philosophy of morality. But his philosophy of morality was based on his ideas about everyday life and how an average person can conduct himself or herself in life, and how that person, through his or her dynamic social relationships, can define his position in the wider realm of existence. So he believed that we should not inherit our values from our traditions, but rather we have to establish our values through our changing and very dynamic social relationships. And by doing that, of course, he provided us with new insight into the nature of truth. There is no fundamental, there is no authority of truth, let's put it that way if you like, in the world, but rather truth is also a social construct, that we create the truth ourselves, and we create the truth ourselves from our different perspectives. And he argues about the importance of perspective as well. So in order for us to gain better and deeper knowledge about the world, we need to develop as many perspectives as we can about the topic. Every perspective goes only so far in explaining the nature, the truth about something, and the more perspectives we can develop, we can have a deeper and more meaningful understanding of what we are trying to understand.
Marcel Duchamp took Nietzsche's philosophical provocations into the visual arts. His works, like Fountain and LHOOQ, question the very essence of art. Duchamp's ready-mades challenge preconceptions about artistic creativity and the role of artists in the creation of art.
Marcel Duchamp is a French artist who rose to fame in 1910s through the movement of Dadaism under the influence of Friedrich Nietzsche, and especially his philosophy of nihilism. So Dadaism was a very unconventional art movement, and Duchamp was one of the figureheads, contributed to the development of the movement. And the movement believed in almost the death of art in the age of nihilism. And Duchamp perhaps is one of the leading figures in conceptual art through his ready-made objects, and he put on display in that exhibition in 1917, ready-made objects. So the urinal perhaps is the most important artwork in 20th century according to many art critics. So, and then he abandoned art and he played chess in the rest of his life. So it's a very unconventional, highly nihilistic, perhaps with some existential elements in the art movement, but it really determined the course of artistic thought and practice in the 20th century.
The crisis of representation was not confined to visual arts. Modernist writers like James Joyce and Virginia Woolf, and composers like Arnold Schoenberg, similarly fragmented traditional structures to depict the complexities of modern life. The philosophical legacies of modernism extend into today's cultural debates. The movement's questioning of truth and representation laid the groundwork for what would become the postmodern critique, further exploring the implications of these philosophical disruptions.
Modernism and capitalism go hand in hand. According to many thinkers and cultural theorists, modernism is one of the byproducts of capitalism. So modernism is the tangible aspects, it includes the tangible aspects of modernity, which started in the Renaissance time. There is no exact date agreed upon for that, but modernism is the result of industrialization, urbanization, and population increase in 19th century and 20th century, and the increasing inclusion of technology in everyday life. And if you go back to 19th century, you know, the rise of new means of transport, trains, boats, planes, telephone, telegraphs, and photography camera, and many other technological devices that formed our lifestyle and our ways of life in 20th century. And capitalism is obviously is a socio-political and economic framework that believes in free market, and also it comes very close to liberalism as well, our freedom of will and our self-determination through economic activities. And they go hand in hand. It's very difficult to disentangle these two concepts from each other. Perhaps modernity is easier to be considered separately from these two concepts, but modernism and capitalism are perhaps two sides of the same coin.
As we reflect on modernism, we see a movement that did more than just introduce new artistic styles. It questioned the very basis of what we consider real and true. Through its profound philosophical and aesthetic shifts, modernism continues to inspire and provoke, challenging us to question the narratives that shape our understanding of the world. To truly grasp the scope of modernism, I encourage you to explore its works further, visit museums, read key texts, and engage with the art that continues to influence contemporary culture. What will modernism inspire in you?